The fire has burned down to embers. You can barely see your own hands in the darkness. Somewhere beyond the fading circle of orange light, something moves through the tall grass. You hear it before you see it, a low rustle, then silence, then another rustle closer than before. Your eyes strain against the black wall of night, but evolution has betrayed you here. Your vision is nearly useless. The creature watching you, however, sees everything. Its eyes have spent millions of years adapting to this exact moment. It can detect your body heat, track your breathing, measure the rhythm of your heartbeat through subtle movements in your chest. It knows you are tired. It knows you must sleep, and it is patient. Now imagine this is not a single night. Imagine this is every night of your entire life. No walls, no locks, no weapons beyond sharpened stone, no flashlight, no alarm system, no rescue coming. Just you, your small band of perhaps 15 to 30 others, and the absolute certainty that predators are watching from the darkness, waiting for the moment your vigilance fails. This was the reality for our ancestors for over 2 million years. Not occasionally, not during unlucky expeditions, every single night. And yet here you are, reading this, existing, breathing, which means they survived. They found a way to close their eyes in a world that wanted to devour them. The question that should unsettle you is simple. How? How did soft, slow, clawless humans sleep safely in a world ruled by predators designed specifically to hunt in the dark? The answer is far more sophisticated than you have been led to believe, and it reveals something profound about what we have lost as a species. Modern humans carry a deeply flawed assumption about our ancestors. We imagine them as primitive, as crude survivors stumbling through existence by luck rather than intelligence. Popular media reinforces this myth constantly. We picture cave dwellers huddled in terror, hoping the fire does not go out, saved only by the random mercy of predators finding easier prey elsewhere. This image is not just wrong, it is dangerously wrong. It underestimates our ancestors so profoundly that it borders on insult. The archaeological record tells a completely different story. Our ancestors were not passive victims waiting to be eaten. They were sophisticated strategists who developed complex, multi-layered defense systems that would impress military planners today. They understood predator psychology. They manipulated environmental factors. They created social structures specifically designed to exploit the vulnerabilities of the creatures hunting them. They did not survive despite the darkness. They learned to weaponize the darkness against their enemies. To understand how they slept, you must first understand what they were sleeping among. The Pleistocene night was not like anything modern humans have experienced. Lions were larger and more numerous. Hyenas hunted in packs that could number over a dozen. Leopards specialized in silent ambush from above. Saber-toothed cats could crush a human skull with a single bite. Massive, short-faced bears could run faster than any human and stood over 11 feet tall on their hind legs. These were not animals that occasionally threatened humans. These were apex predators for whom early humans represented a reliable food source. Archaeological evidence from sites across Africa, Europe, and Asia shows extensive evidence of human bones bearing predator tooth marks. Fossil assemblages reveal that early hominids were regularly consumed by large carnivores. We were prey. The night belonged to them. And yet we survived. The key to understanding how lies not in imagining our ancestors as individuals, but as components of a sophisticated collective survival system. Archaeological evidence suggests that camp organization was never random. Excavations of early human sites reveal consistent patterns in how sleeping areas were arranged relative to fire placement, wind direction, and natural barriers. These patterns appear across vast geographical distances and enormous time spans, indicating that camp design was not accidental but deliberately transmitted cultural knowledge. Fire placement followed specific strategic principles. Researchers believe that fires were positioned not merely for warmth or cooking, but as part of a geometric defense system. Multiple smaller fires arranged in specific patterns created overlapping zones of light that eliminated the shadows predators could use for concealment during approach. The fires were placed upwind when possible, so smoke would carry human scent in the direction most predators would approach from, providing early warning through the reactions of prey animals in the area. But fire alone was never the complete answer. The myth that our ancestors survived simply because they controlled fire misunderstands predator psychology. Large predators, particularly lions and leopards, are not particularly afraid of fire. They approach controlled burns in the wild regularly. What they fear is unpredictability. They fear situations they cannot read. And this is precisely what our ancestors learned to create. Sleeping arrangements within camps were never random. Archaeological evidence suggests that individuals were positioned based on a complex calculation of vulnerability, sensory capability, and social role. Those with the sharpest hearing slept at positions where sound from likely approach vectors would reach them first. Lighter sleepers were distributed throughout the group to create overlapping zones of awareness. Women, children, and the elderly were typically positioned in the most protected central areas, surrounded by concentric rings of others. This was not simply protective instinct, it was tactical positioning. Excavations indicate that sleeping positions were oriented with heads pointing in specific directions, allowing the group to quickly identify the location of a threat based on who woke first and how they oriented their attention. The spatial organization of a sleeping group functioned as a distributed sensory network, with each individual serving as a node that could detect and relay threat information. The positioning of bodies themselves served a defense function. Groups slept in close physical contact, not merely for warmth, but to create rapid chain reaction awakening. When one person startled, the physical movement would instantly wake those in direct contact, who would wake those in contact with them. Within seconds, an entire group could transition from deep sleep to full alertness. Predators hunting humans would have learned that the moment of attack was also the moment their prey transformed from isolated, vulnerable individuals into a unified defensive group. This is where the most sophisticated element of ancient sleep defense emerges. Our ancestors understood something that modern humans have completely forgotten. They did not need to defeat predators. They only needed to be more trouble than they were worth. Predators operate on energy economics. Every hunt is a calculation of calories expended versus calories gained, modified by injury risk. A lion that expends significant energy on a hunt and receives a serious wound may have signed its own death warrant, as the injury will hamper future hunts and potentially lead to starvation. This meant that predator psychology was exploitable. If humans could consistently present themselves as high-risk, low-reward targets, predators would eventually stop trying. Our ancestors achieved this through a system researchers describe as collective signaling. When a threat was detected, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Every member of the group would wake simultaneously, stand, face the threat, and make noise. They would throw objects, rocks, sticks, burning branches from the fire. They would shout and scream. They would spread out to make themselves appear larger as a group, while remaining close enough to support one another. This was not panic. This was a rehearsed, coordinated threat display designed to communicate a single clear message. Attacking this group will cost you. The psychological impact on predators was significant. Archaeological evidence suggests that sites of long-term human habitation show decreasing evidence of predator activity over time. Predators learned. They passed knowledge to their offspring. Certain groups of humans became simply not worth hunting. The humans had trained the predators to avoid them through consistent, coordinated, disproportionate response to every threat. This system had components that modern people rarely consider. Scent, for example, was deliberately manipulated. Human camps produced concentrated human scent, mixed with smoke, cooking odors, and the smell of processed materials. Researchers believe this scent concentration served as a perimeter marker. Predators approaching would encounter this olfactory boundary and recognize it as the edge of human territory. The scent itself became a warning sign. Sound was similarly weaponized. Human camps were not silent at night. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer societies suggest that traditional night camps maintain low-level sounds throughout sleeping periods, shifting, murmuring, occasional talking, the sound of fire being tended. This constant audio signature served as a continuous broadcast of human presence and alertness. A silent camp suggested vulnerability. A camp with steady sounds suggested vigilance. Even the timing of sleep was strategic. Archaeological evidence indicates that early humans likely practiced segmented sleep, a pattern where the night's rest is divided into multiple periods separated by intervals of wakefulness. This pattern, which has been documented in pre-industrial societies and appears to be a natural human tendency when artificial lighting is removed, meant that at any given moment during the night, a significant portion of the group was awake and alert. The concept of the night watch is not a military invention. It is an inheritance from our deepest past, formalized into culture what had once been embedded in biology. Yet even with all these sophisticated systems, sleep remained the most dangerous moment in human existence. Sleep is not merely rest, it is a fundamental alteration of consciousness. During deep sleep phases, awareness of the external environment drops dramatically. The body's temperature decreases. Reaction times, even upon sudden waking, are impaired for crucial seconds. For an ambush predator, these seconds are the window of opportunity. Our ancestors could not eliminate this vulnerability. They could only manage it, reduce it, create systems that compensated for the individual's defenselessness by maintaining the collective's alertness. The acceptance of this persistent vulnerability is perhaps the most important psychological insight into our ancestral mind. They did not live with the expectation of safety. They lived with the constant management of danger. Safety was never a state they achieved. It was a temporary condition they continuously maintained through effort and coordination. This is what modern humans have lost, and the loss is more profound than most realize. The transition from hunter-gatherer existence to agricultural settlement did not merely change how humans obtained food. It fundamentally transformed the human relationship with danger. Walls replaced vigilance. Domesticated dogs replaced collective alertness. Stored food removed the requirement for the social bonds forged through cooperative survival. Over perhaps 10,000 years, an eye blink in evolutionary terms, humans created environments that removed almost every pressure that had shaped their minds for the previous 2 million years. Modern humans inherit bodies and brains calibrated for a world that no longer exists. The anxiety disorders so prevalent in contemporary society may not be malfunctions. They may be ancient threat detection systems firing in environments where the threats they evolved to detect no longer exist. The sleep disorders that afflict modern populations may be echoes of segmented sleep patterns disrupted by artificial lighting. The loneliness epidemic may be the social bonds that once meant survival, now denied by architectural and technological isolation. Experimental archaeology has begun to reveal just how profound this gap has become. When modern humans attempt to replicate ancestral sleeping conditions, spending nights in open environments without modern technology, the results are consistently revealing. Participants report extreme psychological distress, hypervigilance that prevents sleep, and a visceral fear that many describe as unlike anything experienced in their normal lives. The instincts remain, buried but intact, waiting for conditions that trigger them. What makes these experiments most interesting is not that modern humans struggle in these conditions. That is expected. What is remarkable is how quickly, under proper guidance, those ancestral competencies can be partially recovered. Groups that practice coordinated threat response, that learn to read wind and shadow and sound, that establish the spatial organization and social bonding that characterized ancient camps, these groups report significantly reduced fear and improved sleep even in exposed conditions. The knowledge is not fully gone. It is dormant, suppressed by comfort, waiting to be needed again. This should not be taken as a romantic argument for abandoning modern civilization. The ancestral world was brutal. Infant mortality was staggering. Injury meant death. Starvation was a constant companion. Life was brief and often painful, but within that brutality, our ancestors developed competencies that modern humans have allowed to atrophy. They developed the ability to function within danger rather than requiring its elimination. They developed social bonds of genuine interdependence. They developed the psychological flexibility to accept risk rather than being paralyzed by it. The question of how ancient humans slept while predators watched from the darkness is not merely an academic curiosity. It is a window into a fundamentally different way of being human. Our ancestors did not conquer the night. They negotiated with it. They did not eliminate predators. They established a relationship of mutual avoidance built on consistent demonstrated cost. They did not achieve safety. They lived skillfully within danger. There is a tendency among modern people to view the past as a problem that was solved, to see ancient conditions as obstacles that were overcome on the path to our current comfortable existence. But this framing misses something essential. The night our ancestors faced was not a problem to be solved. It was a condition of existence to be navigated. And they navigated it with extraordinary sophistication, with social intelligence, with coordinated systems that emerged from no central planning, but rather from generations of accumulated wisdom transmitted through culture and behavior. Tonight, when you lock your door and turn off your lights and settle into a bed in a climate-controlled room in a structure designed to exclude every element of the outside world, consider for a moment the weight of what you have inherited. You carry in your body 2 million years of knowledge about how to survive the dark. That knowledge is still there, in the way your heart rate changes when you hear an unexpected sound at night, in the way your eyes automatically search the shadows when you step outside after sunset, in the way your sleep is lighter in unfamiliar places. Your ancestors did not merely survive the nights that tried to kill them, they learned to rest within them. They learned that safety is not an environment, it is a practice. It is not something you have. It is something you do, together, continuously, with others whose survival is bound to your own. The predators watched from the darkness for 2 million years. They are gone now, most of them, driven away or driven extinct by the descendants of those who learned to sleep despite them. But the darkness remains, and somewhere in your mind, something ancient still keeps watch.